As on 26th August 2020, more than 12 lakh Indians stranded abroad have been repatriated by different modes under the Vande Bharat mission. Phase 5 of this mission will be completed on 31st August, and in this phase around 900 international flights have been operated from 22 different countries, reaching 23 airports across India. The phase 6 of this mission is scheduled to begin on 1st of September. Based on an assessment of demand by our missions and posts abroad, flights are being rescheduled by Air India Group and by private carriers. Bubble arrangements with different countries will continue as per schedule in the next phase 2. On this, I understand from our records that no approval was taken from MEA for signing this MOU with the UAE Red Crescent Society. See, on Kulbhushan Yadav, I have no further updates from what I told you at the last briefing, and we continue to take up this matter with Pakistani authorities. The charge sheet on Pulwama was filed after an investigation of a year and a half since the attack took place on 14th of February 2019. It has been filed to address the act of terrorism and to bring perpetrators of such a heinous crime to justice. Our aim is not to simply issue statements or notifications. You would also recall that Jaish-e-Mohammed had claimed responsibility for the Pulwama attacks. The organization and its leadership is in Pakistan. It is regrettable that Masood Azhar, the first accused in the charge sheet, continues to find shelter in Pakistan. We have shared enough evidence with Pakistan, but it continues to evade responsibility. It may also be recalled that Pakistan has not yet taken any credible action against perpetrators of the Mumbai attacks of 2008, which resulted in loss of 165 lives, including 25 foreign nationals. Pakistan's assertion that the SRO does not mean that it admits to the presence of listed individuals on its territory or that it would impose any new measures on this listed individuals lays bare its insincerity in responding to legitimate expectations of the world that they will track down international terrorists based on their soil. Pakistan has not only maintained its opposition to this international consensus, but it has also chosen not to act against these international terrorists. As we have said earlier, Pakistan has never taken any credible and verifiable action against terror entities or listed individuals, including the most wanted ones. This subsequent denial by the Foreign Office calls into question their intentions, and it would not mislead the world community in believing in its propaganda. Pakistan must take credible action and ensure that the listed individuals are prosecuted. Sridhar, on 24th August, the PR of Pakistan to the United Nations had put out a statement which claimed that Pakistan had, in the UN Security Council discussions held on Monday on threats to international peace and security caused by terrorist acts, they had made a statement there. Now, the briefing and discussions at the UNSC, at this UNSC meeting was confined to members only, and we had sought clarifications from the Indonesian chair, who informally confirmed to us that there was no scope for any non-member to speak in this discussion. So you would have seen that our permanent mission to the UN in New York has clearly rebutted all the allegations made by Pakistan in the so-called statement, and it is there for you to see in their Twitter handle. See, on Kartarpur, as you are aware, that movement across the land border was suspended in the wake of the COVID-19 outbreak, and due to the monsoon season, we have also been cautious about the safety of our pilgrims in view of the lack of infrastructure on the Pakistani side. So we are in touch with all concerned authorities on this.
Anita Joshua from Telegraph has asked, the Trump campaign has used the footage from Howdy Modi and Namaste Trump in a campaign video released last weekend. How does India view this effort to use the Prime Minister in the US presidential campaign as an endorsement for President Trump?
Anita, in general, we do not comment on the ongoing electoral process of any other country. In my briefing last week, I had informed the status on this, and by way of further update, as of August 24th, the figures that I have are that 1,095 LOCs, that are lookout circulars, were deleted, and 630 foreign members of the Tablighi Jamaat have left India. And I can tell you that MEA has been actively facilitating their consular access. We have also facilitated the deletion of these LOCs. We have also facilitated the smooth repatriation to their countries. We have kept the respective foreign embassies informed through this entire process. On the second part of the question on the visas, see, these members of Tablighi Jamaat who were charged under the Foreigners Act, they were charged for indulging in activities which were incompatible with their visa status, and therefore for such activities the appropriate category of visa has to be sought. EM has received an invitation to participate in the SCO Foreign Ministers meeting to be held in Moscow next month, and as soon as we have a decision on his participation, we will inform you. All Indian nationals, OCI card holders, and foreign nationals of certain categories which have been identified by MHA can avail of Vande Bharat flights. All those who wish to return on these flights have to go through a process of registration in order to this registration is for purposes of quarantine. So that is what is the status on this. Students who wish to return on this flight can undergo this registration process and come back. Our mission has issued an advisory on the 17th of August, and the background to this is that following the outbreak of this pandemic, the Chinese government had restricted the entry of foreigners into China and were permitting such entry only in specific circumstances. Now in this advisory of 17th August, our mission is informed that while some exceptions have been made with regard to certain categories of foreigners, foreign students have not yet been included in any of these categories. And the Ministry of Education of China has also not come out with any information so far on the conduct of the next educational semester by universities and colleges, and on the process for foreign students to return to China. At this point of time, our embassies and our consulates, our embassy and our consulates in China, they are in regular contact with Indian students, and we will keep them informed of all the latest updates on this. The government has been engaged with the US in concluding a limited trade deal. And you may recall that during the visit of President Trump in February earlier this year, it was agreed that both sides, recognizing the increasing importance of trade and investment dimension in their bilateral relationship, would promptly conclude the ongoing negotiations and give it a legal shape. Specific details on this you may obtain from the Ministry of Commerce. Again, I had briefed in detail in last week on the outcome of the visit. And broadly, the visit was useful in discussing specific initiatives in several key areas of mutual interest. Particularly, there was a discussion on the COVID-19 situation, our assistance in this regard, particularly in areas of vaccine and therapeutics. There was a discussion on the celebration of the 100th birth anniversary of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the 50th anniversary of the liberation of Bangladesh, India's development assistance, our cooperation in the area of security, etc. So these were some of the areas of discussion, and you can see those details in the transcript of the last briefing. There was a proposal that the Joint Consultative Commission at the level of foreign ministers would be convened shortly, and this meeting will discuss the entire gamut of bilateral relationship. This is something which is dealt with by the Ministry of Commerce, but we have articulated our position several times in the past. Our views are that there are issues of core concern in this agreement, and which the members are well aware of. On this, as you know, last week the 18th meeting of the WMCC took place, and during the meeting the two sides had a candid and in-depth exchange of views on the existing situation in the border areas. Both sides have reaffirmed that two sides will continue to sincerely work towards complete disengagement of the troops along the LAC in the western sector, in accordance with the agreements reached between the two foreign ministers and the two special representatives during the conversation on the 5th of July. I had conveyed earlier that complete disengagement requires redeployment of troops by each side towards their regular posts on their respective sides of the LAC. it is natural that this can be done only through mutually agreed reciprocal actions. Thus, it is important to bear in mind that achieving this requires agreed actions by both sides. In this context, in the last meeting of the WMCC, the two sides have agreed to resolve the outstanding issues in an expeditious manner and in accordance with existing agreements and protocols. Both sides also agree that full restoration of peace and tranquility in the border areas would be essential for the overall development of bilateral relations. The two sides had also agreed to continue their engagements both through diplomatic and military channels. I would also refer you to the recent interview of External Affairs Minister, wherein, referring to various past border incidents, he had noted that what was common was that all border situations were resolved through diplomacy. EM had further noted that when it comes to finding a solution, this must be predicated on honoring all agreements and understandings and not attempting to alter the status quo unilaterally.